Oh, it's a beautiful day in Night City, isn't it? All right, so we got some really cool news today about Cyberpunk Orion, which of course is the Cyberpunk sequel. Yes, Cyberpunk is evolving. So these words come from Quest director Paolo Sasco. In his recent stream, we have a new update about the process of basically getting the studio together and what it's going to take to develop a AAA experience in Cyberpunk Orion on Unreal Engine 5 in North America. Of course, he's located right now in Poland, so things are going to be very, very different for him, and I'm curious to see what happens here with him being one of the leaders on this. Now, also, we have this article right here. It says Cyberpunk in its current state is a much better open world RPG than The Witcher 3. I kid you not, this is the headline of one of the articles. So, is Cyberpunk 2077 right now better than The Witcher 3, even after the next-gen update for, well, I guess you would say both games? So yeah, we got to talk about it, and I'm curious to see your perspective on this one as well. And yeah, we got a bunch of other things going on with Cyberpunk, including this one right here. Check it out. This comes from Steam. It says, announcing your final nominees for Labor of Love at Steam Awards. Got Dota 2, Project Zomboid, No Man's Sky, Deep Rock Galactic, and guess what else? Cyberpunk 2077. You can vote, of course. Check it out. Now, I definitely think that Cyberpunk 2077 has been an absolute labor of love. Has it been on par with what No Man's Sky has done? I'm not too sure yet. We have to wait for update 1.7, but there's no doubt that CD Projekt Red has poured their hearts and souls into getting this game into a proper state of shape for sure. And I'm excited to see what they do with Phantom Liberty. All right, so I also wanted to showcase a Cyberpunk reference in, guess what? The Witcher 3. So we got to take a look at this one. This is hilarious. Check it out. It says Cyberpunk reference. And if we scroll down, we have Geralt witnessing an NPC clearly sleeping on the bed in the wrong way. And a lot of you caught wind of what this actually means. 4,100 upvotes. Yes, you guys remember the time when in Cyberpunk 2077, V couldn't even figure out how to get into his bed properly. Those were the days. Oh my god. It was like one thing after another, the problems with Cyberpunk. But also, check this out right here. Let me know if you guys ever had this experience. Stupid Idiot says this. What the heck do these numbers mean? I must have missed the explanation somewhere. And he circles here, of course, which is the ammunition. But you could see how much crazy amounts of ammunition this one weapon has, Plan B. That's because it's basically spending your eddies, your currency in Cyberpunk to shoot the weapon. And I saw a lot of comments in this Reddit thread saying, you know what, I completely missed out on this and I was using the weapon throughout the game. I'm like, why am I so poor? The reason is because you're using Plan B. So I don't know if you guys have ever experienced that one, but yeah. Let's get into exactly what our quest director of Cyberpunk had to say, Paolo Sasco. So he had some really cool things to say about Cyberpunk Orion. Take a listen.
I'm actually really excited, to be honest. It will be a completely new chapter in my life, but I also feel very humbled to be one of the devs who is actually moving to Boston to set up the North America branch of the Projekt. I'll have to hire and build a studio. And I tell you one thing. Just imagine how much responsibility I feel, because I want to build something that when we will actually make and ship, then everyone, the OG devs from Warsaw Studio, they will look at the North America and they will be like, holy shit, they delivered. I do not feel ashamed of what they made. This is so good. I am proud of them, I really want to do that, I was telling some of the Reds 2 days ago when we were on the Christmas party, and they were asking me the same question. They were asking me, Pavo, how do you feel about Boston? And I'm like, I really want to make you guys proud, like the devs, I want to show you that we can do thing that is on par with what Warsaw and other studios, our old OG studios can do, so it will be a huge task, just making sure that we have everything done in a way that you guys will be satisfied, that everyone will be proud. Like, I really feel the responsibility. And it's also like, I love challenges, so that's like one of the reasons why I decided to go. I just really love challenges.
So, you know, I get a lot of hope knowing that he is going to be one of the leads heading this new studio. He has always been there, thick and thin, for the Cyberpunk community, doing these streams. He hasn't missed a stream, and you know, he doesn't have to be doing this. He doesn't have to be communicating with the community like he does. He's on stream number 64, and each and every time his streams are entertaining. He sits with the community. He's very genuine. He lives and breathes Cyberpunk 2077. So he is like my first choice to be headed to Boston, and it gives me a lot of hope for Cyberpunk Orion from that perspective. Now, it's interesting that he did say that he wants to deliver a sequel that the devs will be first and foremost proud of, and that is super important because that means the fans would ultimately, in my mind, be proud of it as well. And he spoke about how he wants to be kind of like the OG Warsaw devs, you know what I mean? And he sounds like he's wanting to tap into the DNA of what CD Projekt Red once was, that story, narrative-driven open world experience that we got, of course, with The Witcher 3. And it's cool that he's also up for this challenge. He sounds very excited. He doesn't seem too overwhelmed, which is super important, considering also that, yes, he is currently working on the Phantom Liberty, wrapping up work with that one, which, by the way, they did get done with, I guess you would say, the submissions for Growl FM, which is going to be the community centric radio that we're going to be getting with Phantom Liberty. So they are definitely making progress with Phantom Liberty. I'm curious to see if that means that maybe, just maybe, that it would potentially release here in the first half of 2023. We'll have to see. All right, so let's get into this article right here. Again, the headline is pretty sensational. It says, in its current state, Cyberpunk is much better open world game than The Witcher 3. Now that is quite the statement. Let me know if you guys agree with this, but we gotta get into this article for sure. Let's take a read. So it says, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt has just been released for the 17th time, and I think it's time that society at large accepted that it's just not a particularly good open world RPG. I'm like, what? The Witcher 3 isn't a good open world RPG? Where is this coming from all of a sudden? I am so confused. All right. I feel like this is a troll article, first and foremost. Now it says, admittedly, it's a fairly impressive flow diagram of branching story choices and decisions. It would make a great choose your own adventure book or Twine game, but if what you play expansive RPGs for is to explore an interesting and engaging fantasy environment, this is really the last place you should go. It makes the critical mistake of communicating the details of your surroundings mostly via a mini-map in the corner of the screen, to the extent that you'll rarely be taking in the world itself. And I think that's more of a concern with how, of course, waypoints work and that sort of thing. But the new next-gen update also includes a really cool feature where you can actually kind of shut off the HUD. It's kind of like mirroring what you've seen more recently with games like Horizon Forbidden West and then The Last of Us. So for me, it's been more immersive than ever, and the world itself is absolutely breathtaking and beautiful. And there are very unique sights to behold with cities and things like that. So I don't get any of the complaints from this article at all so far. All right, and then the article goes on to shift focus to, yes, Cyberpunk 2077. So this should be good. It says, for the first few hours, I'm using few in the open world RPG sense here, so 15. You can easily get the impression that the world is the same sort of indistinguishable abyss as The Witcher 3's. It's overwhelming in all the same sorts of ways, a seemingly endless expanse that you couldn't possibly begin to hold the shape of it in your head to any practical degree. You'll once again find yourself spending most of the time ignoring the $1 million ray tracing to parse actually useful information from ugly minimap, the maximalist clutter of the environments, making it migraine-inducing to try to visually separate what you can interact with from what's merely there to look pretty at E3. And you know what? There are some issues with Night City, no doubt, in the fact that a lot of stuff you cannot interact with. So in that sense, I do get where they're coming from. But in the sense that the city is overwhelming, and too much to take in. My personal opinion on that one is it's supposed to be that way. It's supposed to represent like this megatropolis that's almost too big for any individual. That's what I get from Night City, and that's why I absolutely love it. Plus, there's a lot of identifiable things about Night City as well, making it easy to get around without like the HUD and things like that. Now, it goes on to say this: if this all sounds like I didn't enjoy playing the game, it's because I didn't. Make no mistake, Cyberpunk is by no means a good video game. This didn't stop me from putting 150 hours into it for no reason other than I like collecting blouses and reading other people's private emails. With a gun to my head, I couldn't relay any of the main story or name any of the characters. Other than the impossibly beautiful lesbian with the side cut, it might not be a very good video game, but it's a pretty decent screensaver. Most of those hours were spent with the game on mute, driving aimlessly through the streets and listening to Su Si Su. And you know, if it's not a good game, I don't see why you would ever want to put 150 hours into it. That made me scratch my head a little bit. There had to be something there to keep you in the open world, to keep you interested. Let me know, have you guys put hundreds of hours into a game that you ultimately hated? I'm kind of curious. Now, it says somewhere in all those miles through all those streets, a subliminal sense of genuine familiarity with the various districts started to seep into my brain. I found myself hardly ever looking at the minimap anymore, just knowing by instinct if the area I needed to head to was generally north or south. The city is a messy patchwork of ring roads and flyovers and bizarre dead ends, the result of decades of various corporations wrestling over control of local civil engineering. It makes about as much intuitive sense to navigate as most British cities. So I guess in that sense, the familiarity they're talking about here in this article is due to the fact that there are recognizable landmarks, I guess, and it's easy to get around and understand that, hey, like for instance, right now, you know, you're headed to Pacifica, which I love. I love being able to navigate this world in that way. Now, it says this: because I'm such a completely normal person with normal hobbies and interests, I decided to kill the entire HUD and start role-playing as a taxi driver, taking exploratory circuits around the entirety of the city to determine if it was remotely feasible to develop a solid sense of its shape. I stuck to the speed limit and I imagined picking up someone from the Pacifica Mall and dropping them off at Lizzie's bar. Eventually it clicked. The heaving network of bridges and bypasses suddenly made some form of sense. My understanding of the totality of a game's space, the clearest it's ever been since GTA 3's Liberty City. And this is cool. Now, I have to say that it would be very, very cool to have some sort of Uber driving experience in Night City, because I think there could be some crazy stories to experience, especially if you had some sort of, combat vehicle that you would have to go through Pacifica. In fact, there are some teases that could actually be a thing in the upcoming DLC, because it's like, imagine Uber driving through a war-torn combat zone, and of course you would think payment would be pretty good with doing something like that. So that would actually be a really, really cool thing. That's something that I took away from this article. Now, it goes on to wrap up by saying this: forcing yourself against it, trying to find your way and ground yourself, that's a feeling of victory that is unique to Cyberpunk. Triumphing against a massive city's efforts to make you feel small might not have been CD Projekt Red's idea as a final boss, but it's far more exhilarating than watching Geralt climb over 10,000 fences. So overall, what they are saying here in this article, and they're particularly talking more about the actual open world, so the Witcher open world versus, of course, Cyberpunk's Night City. In that, Night City is just far more interesting, and it's easier to actually navigate and understand because of how unique it is district to district. And in that sense, I somewhat agree, especially when we're talking about The Witcher 3, when you get out into, of course, countryside and things, and forest somewhat looks similar, but that's kind of to be expected. You get the same thing somewhat in Red Dead Redemption 2, but there are very recognizable, identifiable things about The Witcher 3 that make it stand out. The cities, the NPC interactions, the amazing side quests. So there's tons of things, positive things to take in The Witcher 3. And for me personally, it's nearly impossible to say which game is better. Now, right now, in their current states, without any more updates to Cyberpunk, we're getting one more big update. The Witcher 3 still wins because it is more polished, at least in my opinion, with things that actually work, guards that go after you if you are, doing any crimes and that sort of thing. Right now, we don't have a really working police system for Cyberpunk. Not yet, at least, but we will be getting that. We'll be judging it, I think, pretty harshly when it does finally release. We want a really, really good police overhaul. All right, now it's time to get into your top comments. Remember, leave a comment down below. It can end up right here in a future video. So what was my most recent video about? This is huge. This changes everything. Massive discovery. The news about update 1.7 and more. So yeah, there was a very big discovery about the FF Easter egg, I guess you would call, between The Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk. It makes the Easter egg even more complicated and even more of a mystery. And ultimately, I'm kind of curious if this Easter egg will be something that happens over years, to be blunt, and then maybe be something that ties into Projekt Hadar, like a big reveal. I don't know. That's just something that maybe could happen, considering that it's between both Cyberpunk and The Witcher, and it's part of huge communities. I'm starting to wonder. Now we have Coffee Fiend, who says this: pretty sure the two universes were already linked. Ciri talks about visiting a world where she hid from Avallac'h for half a year, where people had metal in their heads and raged war from a distance, and there were flying ships instead of horses. That's a really cool point, because yeah, Ciri did actually say that. I do remember that being discovered, and it's interesting how they're kind of like trying to tie the two universes through different Easter eggs. I don't know what the ultimate goal is here, so yeah, only time will tell. Now, I am a dog says this: also, FF06B5 is a hex code for magenta, which is the color of the orbs the statues in Cyberpunk are holding and the color of the symbol on the wall in Witcher 3. I have no idea what that's supposed to mean. There has been so many different theories about the color relating to different cultures and things like that, so your guess at this point is as good as mine. Then we have this one from Pagan, who says this: I still have a song in my head that I need to write, but I think that we shouldn't on more storyline quests tied to your life paths. Especially in the end game, we need more life path related content to make them feel like an actual choice that means something. Agree, 100%. So maybe, just maybe, Phantom Liberty will tap into new life paths that actually do matter. Man, again, I want to play as Max Tech. There it is, the latest happenings around Cyberpunk 2077. And yeah, we're still talking about The Witcher. We're going to be talking about The Witcher more and more as time goes along, just to warn you, because yes, Laris is also going to be in the news. That's the new Witcher saga. Can't wait to see that one. But thank you all so much for watching, and stay tuned for more Cyberpunk, Witcher, and open world gaming goodness. And I will see you all next time. Take care.